Islam, and greetings. Princeanaelbey, Divine Prince of the Divine Theocracy and Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America through Temple Alhambra. I sincerely hope that you all are well and that you have been living the best life that you have. I'm just getting back in from an evening. I was invited to escort a friend of mine who was a part of this dinner, this gathering that was given this evening. And as I was commiserating and talking with some of the other guests, practically, I don't know, I just don't know what it is. However, the groups that I involved myself with this evening, it appears that most of the conversation, especially from these international men, the problem seems to be women. And men seem to be having quite the problem with women today. I understand it, but these younger men today don't seem to understand it. And the truth of the matter is, because they are dealing with these unwanted baby girls from irresponsible mothers. And that is why when you look at the so-called dating landscape for these younger men today, there is absolutely not very much to choose from. And I was reminded by my guest that these girls today who are erroneously characterized as women, they are not women because they have never gone through the course. And while I was listening to her, I was thinking all the time I was listening to her, what is it that you don't see? This is the question I asked myself about her. What was it that she didn't see? Well, the answer is quite simple. You see, men of my peerage, we don't, or we didn't have the problems that younger men are having today with the girls and the women that we chased after when we were younger men. The reason we did not have the problems that these younger men are going through today is because the girls we chased, they were raised by women, W-O-M-E-N, meaning the women who taught the girls we chased after, they were full-grown women who knew their stuff, and they passed it on to the girls. they brought into the world. Now, among the differences between the girls we chased after and the little girls who are out here now, one of the biggest differences being the girls we chased after, they were trained. What you have out here now, that these younger men are just not happy with, are the daughters of single parent birthers. And because their birthers didn't know anything to teach them, well, quite naturally, they went out and did what their birthers did. And the cycle continues. One of the gentlemen I was engaged in conversation with, he brought up the subject of these children's nutrition. Well, as I listened to him, and through my own experiences and the things that I have observed, young women today, they don't cook. And the reason they don't cook, and I've seen this myself, instead of cooking, because quite naturally, they never learned how to cook. And I'm going to give you an example. I know of a 42-year-old woman with 5 children, and she could not cook at all. Could not cook at all. One of her daughters did the cooking for the family. She could not even cook bacon. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. She couldn't even cook bacon. She washed the bacon off before she put it in the skillet. I've never seen that done before. And how is it a 40-anything woman not know her way around a kitchen? Well, the answer is simple. She was never taught. She was never trained to cook for a family. Because today, these young girls, they don't learn how to cook because their birthers never learned how to cook. So that is simply another thing that they cannot pass on to their daughters. And as I hear these young men complain about these girls that they have to choose from, many of them are simply walking away from them because there is no advantage to them for having I call them new type females. I can't call them women because they're not. And many of them believe that popping out a baby makes them a woman. No, it only makes you a parent of an unwanted child. That's all it does. And as I listen to these men, I also noticed that I was older than most of them in the group. And these are the girls that they have to choose from today. And it benefits them not. One thing which became a cliche to me this evening, and it really didn't matter which individual I was talking to. I was talking to a man from Uruguay. And all he could talk about was American women. Well, he did not have a very high opinion of American women. And the sad thing to me is they are classifying these new young little girls as women. That's their first mistake. A woman is trained to be, check that. A girl is trained in how to be a woman. And if she is not trained on how to be a woman, she will simply grow older with no values, nothing to cling to in the way of a moral compass, and no values have been instilled in her to even understand what a woman is. Because again, they believe that by popping out children, that makes them a woman. And another of the conversations which took place this evening, I mean, for some reason, I could talk about basically anything on earth, but it appears that the one thing on these men's minds were women. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is an international gathering, and there are people here from the American states. There are people here from Europe, and I don't know what it was that made me go to these particular groups of men, because I simply wanted to stand by and gauge the conversation and decide if this is a conversation that I wanted to engage in with these men. And as I listened to them, and they were bemoaning their dating fates, I felt relieved. I felt relieved because men of my generation, we did not have these problems with the girls we were chasing. We simply didn't. Because the girls of that era, they had standards. They had standards. And what I really can't see happening with the girls we went after, what I can't see is those same girls that we went after looking at what passes for a male these days. And I mean under 30. And I'm just using 30 because I've seen Asiatic men out here past 25 and past 30. I've seen them, and their mentality is ridiculously low. Now, by the same token that these males have very little in the way of what to choose from out here in terms of a mate, the same can be said for the girls. Now, I'm going to keep making this contrast. I'm going to keep going back and forth. The girls we were chasing, again, they had standards. You had to be this, you had to have that, and by this and that, I mean, if you wanted her to spend her time with you, then you had to be about something. Unlike today, where all she needs is validation, and then she'll make you, and she will make herself an unwed mother again, and you, as the male, you'll be told you need to step up. Well, it almost sounds fair, except that it isn't. And it isn't fair because if the girl is not independently wealthy, and most women, they don't even have $500 in a bank account. And I've seen dinner time in the hood. Dinner time in the hood means bringing her bastard brood to a gas station, and dinner will consist of Cheetos, Doritos, and whatever little 10-cent snack she can grab off the rack in that gas station mini mart. That's dinner. That's dinner. And so for a child to grow up under these conditions, check that. Not grow up, but grow older. With this as his history, that child is headed for nowhere. Simply because his birther laid down and had him before she was mentally mature enough or psychologically fit enough to bear children and financially fit enough to have them and care for them. But again, these are not the girls we went after. And they were real quick to be wifed up. They were real quick to be wifed up because she had value. Because she has value. Not so today. And the shame of it is, this apparently has become a worldwide phenomenon. I am simply pleased that I am not a part of this generation growing up today. Today, you've got 50-year-olds with the mentality of a 14-year-old. You have people in their 40s with the mentalities of 12-year-olds. Now, I watched this come about, and I am more than vaguely aware of all of the factors which contributed to what it is people are living under today, especially on the social scene. Now, another thing which has me completely stymied, as I was engaged in different conversations this evening, in one of the conversations that I had prior to some of the others was, and this sounded like a cliche to me, and that is the question: what do these girls today bring to the table? Well, the answers that I got this evening from the men who have asked such questions, the number one question, what do you bring to the table? The answer was almost always invariably me. I bring me to the table. What you little girls need to understand is that ain't enough. That ain't enough. Especially if you've been run through 60, 70 times. You got 3, 4 different baby daddies. You are not high value. And this one conversation I was listening to, it was all I could do to keep from rolling on the floor. The guy said these low and no value women, once they have messed up royally, and by messing up royally, he was speaking of having 3 and 4 different babies by 3 and 4 different baby daddies. What he said was, these women, after they have been run through, now all of a sudden they have standards. And I'm telling you, one of the things that really almost put me on the floor was this guy. He was Asiatic, and he was, I don't know, maybe 38, 39 years old. And he was telling me about this woman, check that, this girl, and she had three, four children by just as many different baby daddies. And he saw her because, men are visual creatures. He saw her, thought she looked good and all this other good stuff. And the first thing he asked her was, how many children does she have? And what I'm finding is that is the first question that a lot of these males are asking women these days. That's the first question they're asking. And what I'm noticing is women are slow to catch on to what's happening. They are slow to catch on. From what I understand, they have this unrealistic view of themselves. How are you going to sleep around, get up with 3 or 4 different baby daddies, and then all of a sudden have requirements for a man? A man with no children. A man who's got his head on straight and knows where he's going. My question is, what makes you think he's checking for the likes of you? You have ruined yourself. You have ruined yourself with your promiscuity. No man is going to want you because you've ruined yourself. These are not problems we had to face. You see that good-looking girl? You got your job, and at that time, them girls didn't care where you worked as long as you worked, because back then it was easier to get a job. This was still industrial America, where you could go right out of high school and into a career and send children to college even before the United States turned into a service and information-oriented company. She used to be industrial and agricultural. We fed the world and we made stuff and shipped them all over the world. The girls from that era, they knew what kind of boy they wanted to hitch their wagon to. They knew. And what we knew was if we were fortunate enough, we would get that girl. And, back during that time, there were plenty of virgins. Plenty of virgins. You did not have to worry about hooking up with Carol, knowing that she had 69 boys run through her. No, because Carol didn't carry herself like that. And Carol wouldn't even look at a dude like that, because the girls of that era had standards. They did not do everything their little nasty friends did. Back then, girls and boys, they had their own minds. They had their own minds. And that is absent today. So as I listened to these conversations, I was just outdone. I was just outdone. What passes for women today aren't women. They have a long way to go before they are called women. Obviously, they believe that they are women merely by virtue of their biology. That is not what makes a woman. Just like a man's biology and physiology does not make him a man. It makes him man, but not a man. And you see, one of the biggest contributing factors to what women are crying about now, and I hear these things. And I heard them this evening. Questions like, where have all the good men gone? Well, that's real simple. You blew them off. You blew them off. And so after you've had your fourth or fifth child out of wedlock, now you are checking for the guy you blew off 4 or 5 babies ago. You see, you princesses are very bad at decision making. You're very bad at decision making. Quite bad at it. And I understand why. You never had the guidance. I got that. But you do still have one of these. I gave you a solution to you finding yourself in a quandary. I gave that to you in my video message to my daughters, where I suggested to you that should you find yourself in a situation or a circumstance and you are cajoled and you are browbeaten and you are shamed into going along or doing something that someone else wanted you to do, the advice I gave you was to question, what is the benefit to me? That will solve all of your problems, because it shouldn't take you more than a millisecond to determine if what you are invited to do is in your best interest and if it will benefit you. I've given you the solution to those moments you find yourself in a quandary. I did enjoy myself this evening. I had a lovely steak dinner. It was magnificent. But I had to come back and share with you all some of the social barometers that I watch in order to learn the direction in which man and mankind are going. So, we're going to have more talks, Princess, because you are not making good decisions. I understand why, and I will do my best to guide you. All you have to do, since you've never had any guidance, is pay attention. Just pay attention. You would do well to follow the advice given to you by your prince, because I have nothing but your best interest at heart. You are ruining yourselves, and I personally do not want you to. However, it is impossible for me to care more about you than you do, and I care. So, that's it for tonight. like, share, subscribe, and you all take care of each other. You love one another, and you protect one another. I bid you peace.